Rebecca, you ready? Rebecca? It's good. Okay. Andy. Good evening, everybody. We will call the City of Clovis City Council meeting to order for August 18, 2025 at 6 p.m. And we're going to start off with the flag salute by Councilmember Basco. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can ask that everybody remain standing, we're just going to ask for a moment of silence for former Superintendent Terry Bradley, as today also opened the Bradley Center, or Clovis South, and also former Clovis Unified School Trustee Ralph Lockwood. So if we can just bow our heads for a moment of silence to honor them. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you for indulging us with that. At this time, we're going to have a roll call from our city clerk.
Councilmember Ashbeck is absent today. So Councilmember Baskel? Here. Councilmember Bessinger?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pierce? Here. And Mayor Moanatua?
Here. Next, we will have public comments. If you are here this evening and like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, you may do so at this time. You have 3 minutes. You can state your name and give your address for the record. And before you begin, sir, I just want to note for the record, we do have 3 items on the dais of public comments. One is regarding trash totes. The other is, and the other 2 are regarding pickleball courts. So I wanted to just put that in the record.
My name is John Adams. I live at 2671 Whittier Avenue in Southeast Clovis. Your clerk is passing around some flyers as examples. I came before your council some time ago requesting that the council send notices to neighbors and residents in my area to remind them to put their trash totes back behind a fence out of sight after trash collection day. The council at that time very vehemently said, no, we're not going to do that. So I was trying to figure out, okay, what would be a solution to remind residents to move their trash, after trash collection day, move their trash totes back behind the fence or out of sight. Could go in the garage or wherever. And I came up with this idea. We very often get flyers from the city regarding trash and recycling. So and those flyers have to be made up. So my ask is just a simple reminder, as my sample is, to remind residents to move their trash totes back behind a fence or out of sight after trash collection day. It seems simple. It may take a little bit of effort because you would have to change your flyers, but I think it's a simple solution. You're already mailing out the flyers, so there's no extra mailing cost. And it would, I am assuming that those trash reminders about totes, whatever it is, recycling, go out to all the residents, so everyone would be notified. So, do you have any questions on that? I did attach it to your agenda, but the picture's kind of blurry. That's why I decided I better come and.
Yes, we have your email here too, so thank you with that. And maybe, go ahead.
Mr. Adams, have you ever used the Go Clovis app for the phone? It's, for citizens, it's awesome. You see graffiti, you take a picture of it, it geolocates. You have a problem like that, trash containers left out, it'll geolocate, take a picture of it, and you send it in, it goes immediately, and then it gets sent out to wherever it needs to go. I've used it for, broken water sprinklers that, you run the trail and it's just flowing. You take a picture, next day, sometimes that day they come out, maybe it's because it came from me. But I've seen things fixed immediately, very quickly. And it's really a good thing. And so if it's just like one person who's always doing it, and maybe we need to deal with that, that's where you take the picture, you send it, and it gets farmed out to whatever department's going to do it. So,
That's a great idea, but it's several neighborhoods and several streets.
Understand.
I'll be glad to try that. I didn't want to bother, your code enforcement, as I understand it, is enforced by your police department. And I did not want to bother they have enough on their hands to take care of with something small as like this. So I thought maybe just a reminder on your flyers would help the situation.
Okay.
That's my ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Adams, for the email and for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the council?
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Stephen Trevino, I live on Bullard. I just wanted to mention real quick, like you were talking about Mr. Ralph Lockwood.
Yeah.
I went to school here in Clovis back in the 60s. I'm 67 years old, but when I was in second grade, I first went to Dry Creek, and then I went to Weldon. And Mr. Lockwood was the principal there. And he was the principal there, and later on, I went to Cole Elementary. But anyways, later on in my life, I went to Clark, right across the street here, and he was the principal there again. And I saw him just this year. I went to a funeral for Linnell Perkins. He's very well known in Clovis. His father was a superintendent for the city of Clovis years ago. But anyways, I got to see him again this year at a funeral. And Mr. Lockwood is an icon here in Clovis. He was an icon. He was very well known and very well loved by many people here in the city of Clovis. And I hope that his name will carry on and somehow in the city of Clovis, because he was just an icon. I don't know how more I can express that. He was just an icon here in the city of Clovis among the schools. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino, for sharing that. And maybe this is something, Diane, you can bring up to the joint meeting with the Clovis Unified. Okay. Anyone else?
I'm Jenny Krinn, and I live on Bullard Avenue, and I'm sticking to the trash thing and such. Thank you for passing out the little green compost totes. I went and I actually picked some up for various members of the family, and very, they're very convenient and make it a little easier to recycle the food waste. And also thank you for the app. I didn't even know about the app. I took a minute to find it, but thank you.
Well, good. Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else like to have any comments? Okay, none other. We're going to go ahead and now move to the consent calendar. We have 12 items on the consent calendar. And so consent calendar items are routine in nature and will be approved as one unless a member of the council or the public like to pull one of the items. Members of the council would like to pull any items? Anyone here in the public like to pull an item or discuss any of the items 1 through 12 on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and see what the motion is.
motion to approve consent calendar items 1 through 12.
Second.
We have motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we have one absent, so passes 4-0, one absent. Item 13, this is, I think, we have 2 items this evening. Item 13, it's consider various items related to tobacco retailer violations and hearing officer authority. Item A is amending Chapter 5.28 of Title V of the Clovis Municipal Code relating to appeals. Item B is amending Chapter 5.35 to Title V of the Clovis Municipal Code relating to tobacco retailers. Staff on this is Corporal Sean O'Brien. Corporal.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to start with 5.35 of Title V. We're looking to change the verbiage for 5.35.15, stipulated fine in lieu of hearing, to verbiage that brings discretion back to the officer in these instances, because what we found, it was actually caught by one of the hearing officers, is that the stipulated fine under the code allows for a business to pay that, but we have no recourse for suspending a clerk or somebody else that was in violation. So it basically addresses that and brings forward the fines and defines those for the clerks as well as the business owners. It allows us to be consistent as well as use our discretion when issuing fines and suspensions. We take into consideration when we issue any of these citations, whether the clerks or just the businesses are being cited or suspended at all. As enforcement has taken place since September of last year when this went into effect, there have only been 10 clerks who were issued citations of the 46 citations that were issued at tobacco retailers. 7 of those were to clerks who had actually made the sale to a minor, and the 3 additional had been given warnings or state violation citations in the past as well. In all the other instances, the clerks weren't given any kind of citation. It was addressed through the businesses as well as their licensing.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up on that?
Yes, sir.
The sales to minors, were these kids under 18 or were they adults between 18 and 20 in those situations?
They were adults between 18 and 19. They're generally police cadets that we use as minor decoys being sent into the businesses.
Okay, I guess the only concern I have with, and I don't agree with the law, I think it's silly, but that's a whole different thing. Being too heavy-handed on a minimum wage employee who's just doing his job or her job, I don't, if they're acting irresponsibly, obviously, in my mind, if a 16-year-old walks in, they can get the full boat fine. I don't really care. I'd hate to, if someone says, this is what my boss tells me, he needs me to sell cigarettes. And I'd hate to be a little too heavy-handed with them, but that's just, you can serve your nation, but you can't get a pack of smokes. This does make sense to me.
On that too, what we've seen as we've done some of these minor decoy operations is we've had very good buy-in from the majority of our retailers in compliance, particularly as it comes to underage sales and flavored tobacco or tobacco product sales. But what we have seen in at least 3 of the different businesses is when we do send minors in, the clerks have actually suggested locations in the county or city of Fresno where they can buy illegal tobacco products or where they will sell to anybody underage. So even though they're not doing it in Clovis, they're also putting the information out there of where it can be accessed. You're welcome.
Corporal, so what's going on? So we find the employee at fault, but then they're going to the employer. Can you explain what is happening there on
Yes,
why
sir.
they're not being fined? Or is the business establishment still fined, or there's no fine at all?
Yes, sir. So generally, if we find any violation of the municipal code under the tobacco retailer's license, it automatically comes back on the holder of the license, whatever corporation, entity, individual person owns that business. But if we have a violation, and it's been officer's discretion up to this point, if we have a violation that directly involves the clerk, such as the sale to a minor, then we're also citing the clerk as well as the business owner because it's a violation for both of them under the code.
And then this will allow the officer to impose the fine directly to
the clerk,
To the
because
clerk.
the way
Okay.
it's written currently is a stipulated fine in lieu of another provision, which the other provision as it's written right now is a 60-day suspension on retailing. We're not issuing
Okay.
60-day suspensions to the clerks. We're writing citations for monetary fines or arrests if necessary.
Okay. And the numbers you stated earlier, we could have fined more
Yes, sir.
from the numbers of the citations.
Yes, since September 24th of last year, there have been about 46 citations issued. In every one of those instances, the clerks could have been issued
Okay.
citations as well. But using discretion, we've only issued 10 citations to clerks, and those were directly to the clerks who sold to minors or had previously been given warnings about selling flavored tobacco products, cannabis products, psilocybin mushroom products, things of that nature.
And the training on these ordinances is we give it to them, or they should know already with regards to the fines?
I've personally met with every single retailer in the city of Clovis. We're currently at 72, and then I have an open line of communication with them. The CDTFA regularly releases notices and articles to these businesses, so if there is any updated information or training coming out on the state side, I can go back and find out directly when that business was given that information before taking action on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can proceed to the next one as well. Any further questions on this one? No. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I threw Corporal O'Brien a little curveball before the meeting. So as attorneys often do, we, in the office today, we were actually kind of debating one of the code sections, and it's the first ordinance on this evening's agenda. It's the one that is proposing to amend Chapter 5.28, and it's specifically Section 5.28104F, as is up there. We've experienced a couple of occasions from our hearing officers where they've gone, I wouldn't say rogue, but they've gone a little bit different than what we thought they should under the city's municipal code as far as decisions on appeals. And so we had intended to make some changes to that provision that limits the hearing officer's discretion as to what he or she may do when there is an appeal. But after further review, we found in Section 105, which isn't up there, we have existing language that I think does limit the hearing officer's discretion as to what they can and can't do with an appeal hearing. And the concern that we had is where the hearing officer was basically reducing the fine to an amount that was not otherwise provided for in the code. And so we wanted to limit that and say, look, you either have to impose the fine or not. You don't have authority to, let's say, cut the fine in half if we don't have that half number as one of the authorized fines. So after looking at it a little bit further and discussing with Corporal O'Brien this evening, and Paul as well, we think we should hold off and not amend the first ordinance that's in tonight's packet. Chapter 5.28, specifically Section 5.28104, we don't think that that's necessary, that change is necessary at this time, because we have existing language in Section 105 that we're not proposing to amend that we think addresses that. Just an issue of probably educating the hearing officers a little bit more as to what his or her authority is.
Okay. So only 5.35 is...
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, we're asking that we go ahead and withdraw the first ordinance tonight and not have the council introduce that ordinance, the one amending Chapter 5.28. We don't think that that's necessary.
Any other questions for Corporal O'Brien?
I'm interested in a specific example of an appeal, appeal officer straying from what he or she was supposed to do.
I can give that example, and part of the reason that was originally introduced is in one of the instances where there was a sale to a minor, both the clerk and the business were given a citation for violation of the tobacco retail license ordinance. They both had different appeal officers. So the hearing for the clerk came through, who showed a hardship, and her fine was reduced to $500. When the business owner came through, his fine was reduced to $100 and no suspension. So that we can be consistent and across all of them, staff can basically take into consideration the fines, hardships, anything like that after the fact and make those changes. But in that specific instance, it's kind of what it brought us to our attention that, hey, this isn't necessarily fair how that one instance was addressed.
So the appeals officer fined the employee $500, but reduced the fine for the retailer?
It was two different appeal officers, so the appeals were set for different days, and the same case information was heard by two different appeal officers who came to the same conclusion in that it factually had occurred. There was a violation. One appeal officer felt that the fine reduction necessary for the clerk was to $500, and the other one found in the language that we're asking to change that the fine was appropriate for $100 for the business.
Okay.
So now it would just be one set price, one set fee,
Yes, but
pretty much.
but
If the
staff
facts are if the facts are found, then this is what you're going to pay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But staff can also take into consideration hardships, anything else produced by the violator, to also make appropriate action and be consistent in reducing fines or dismissing them
Okay.
completely.
And staff is not the hearing officer?
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just for the public and the council and the staff, just so you're aware of what the provision currently provides. And this is section 5.28 105H, and it refers to the procedures for an appeal, and it talks about decision. It says at the conclusion of the hearing officer or Board of Appeals shall deliberate and reach a decision within 15 days. The decision and the reasons for the decision shall be reduced to writing. The hearing officer or Board of Appeals may affirm, reverse, modify, or set aside the abatement order, suspension or revocation, or permit or license, citation, decision, or other order issued pursuant to this code as the facts and law warrant, subject to the following limitations. So this, again, this type of procedure is available for numerous different types of code violations. That's why there's references to an abatement order, suspension, revocation of a permit license. We kind of refer to this as the procedure for the appeal for numerous different violations. It goes on to say that subject to the following limitations, the hearing officer or Board of Appeals shall not have the authority to waive any requirements of the code or law. And then it goes on, number 2, nothing in these procedures shall be deemed to authorize the hearing officer or Board of Appeals to deviate from unambiguous provisions of the governing code or statute or well-established interpretations of the same based upon expert opinions or other reliable evidence. So basically, look, if we have a clear violation here, you can't just cut it in half or do something different because you think that may or may not be fair. Either it's a violation or it's not, and we have certain procedures that we want followed by the hearing officer. So that discretion really would rely, or the discretion would fall on staff to issue the violation in the first instance. And I think, as you've heard from the corporal, it's pretty rare that we're going to do that with a clerk unless there's a need to do so. It's mostly going to fall on, I think, the store owner.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Thank you for that clarification, Scott. Does that complete the report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and open the public portion. We are not hearing, or we are taking away Chapter 5.28. So if you have any comments or questions with regards to Chapter 5.35 as presented by Corporal O'Brien, you may do so at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public portion and bring it back to the council. Any more further comments, questions, or if there is ready for a motion on this item?
I have a philosophical issue with a $500 fine for a clerk who sells a pack of smokes to a 19 or 20-year-old. But I'm going to vote no, just because I don't like the law to begin with.
And is that how much it is? Is that how much it is, Corporal O'Brien? Is it 500?
The fine
Like-
starts at $1,000
Well, the
for
fine starts at
tobacco violation.
1,000, so it's
Yes, sir.
more than 500. Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments before?
Well, I
the
think a lot
motion?
of times the clerk is gonna get terminated or something along those lines as well as if the owner gets a $1,000 fine. So I think there's always a punishment already included when a store clerk gets cited as well. So I'm kind of in agreement with Drew on this as far as hammering somebody for selling cigarettes to a 19 or 20-year-old, or even though I know that's part of the grants and the things that we have to do, but yeah, if it's 14, 15, 16-year-olds and, the juveniles it's a little different for me too. But like Drew said, you can, sign up and go to the Army at 18 but you can get a $1,000 fine for selling cigarettes, so.
Corporal, can you just clarify exactly how it works when you decide to cite a clerk for a violation? Because obviously the retailer or the business owner has certain liabilities, but what happens to cause an officer to say, I think this clerk needs to be cited for this violation?
So generally, in the way it's put into practice, probably about 90% of our tobacco retailers, they have a point of sale system that requires some form of ID verification, Many of those have ID scanners, typing in a date of birth. So when the decoy goes in, they present their real ID and they're completely honest about their age going into it. So if a clerk asks in the first place, they're going to get the real information. We're not lying, we're not trying to trick anybody. Once the ID is presented, if there is something in the point of sale, they either have to type in or bypass that to continue to make the sale to the minor. All of that's taken into consideration. An actual copy of the ordinance was left at every single one of the businesses as well. And then when we take into consideration when we're citing the clerk, the state violation for this is a misdemeanor that then goes on their record, which could impose court fees and attorney fees and all of that. By citing on the municipal code side, we're keeping it basically in-house with the city of Clovis, where it's not necessarily going to show up on their criminal record as well.
Just a clarification, Scott. We've cited clerks before, right? Is that what we've said?
Yes, sir. Since
So
the
why are
ordinance
we-
went into
what are we
place,
changing?
since the ordinance went into place, we've cited 10 clerks. What's changing is we're clarifying the language saying this is the fine. It's not a stipulated fine in lieu of a suspension. Because right now the way the code is written is I would go and I would suspend that clerk from selling tobacco for 60, 90, 120 days or permanently in the city of Clovis.
But section A already covers that?
Yeah, and I apologize, it's a little bit confusing. This is a different chapter now, the 5.35, yes, than the one that we had talked about earlier, that I'd suggest that we didn't need. As the corporal said, this one, 5.35, currently, the chapter currently provides for a stipulated fine in lieu of a hearing. But it really is only intended to apply to the retailer, not the clerk itself. And what we had, I think, was the hearing officers applying it to the clerks themselves, because there's really not a suspension that we would issue to the clerk. It's a suspension to the business from the ability to sell licensed products, not really the clerk. And so that was the issue, is having two separate potential fines or remedies available, one for a clerk, one for the store owner.
So it's just a clarification of that process, not actually how we cite or don't cite?
Correct.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense.
And then I have two more questions. One is this part where it says after a first violation, an administrative penalty of $1,000. Is there discretion on the amount of the penalty, or is that what we're saying, that it's $1,000 regardless of circumstances? And then also with that, is there a process where, particularly for clerks, there's a warning before a citation, or what's kind of the protocol for that?
Sure, so the initial citation is for $1,000. It falls back on either the appeal process or coming to staff and requesting a reduced fine, showing proof of hardship for payments, or a request of dismissal at all, and everything's taken into consideration as well. But I wouldn't go to a store and say on scene, okay, you know what, you're in violation of this, I'm changing it to $1,000 right then. It's something that would be discussed at a later date. Okay. That way we're consistent across the board with fines and violations. And then I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Is there like a warning first before a clerk would be issued a citation, or is it first offense?
Generally, it's first offense for sales to minors. Every other instance, there has been at least one warning given.
And when you say minors, you're saying under 18, not 18 to 20 who still aren't legally allowed to purchase?
We're saying
or just
20 years or younger.
Okay. And then what is the effect, if we weren't to amend our current ordinance and we wanted to kind of leave clerks a little more ambiguous, how would that affect any grants or state funding or anything like that for the programs you do?
Most likely what would occur is we'd either default back to the standard fines for the municipal code, which is $100, $500, and then $1,000 fine, or we'd be reverting back to the state, which starts at $250, $500, then $1,000, as well as the misdemeanor arrest.
Hey, Drew, help me understand sort of your issue with regards to just the law itself. I'm trying to understand the 18 and then the minors themselves and then the 18 to 20.
I would be 100% in favor of this, but we have difficulty running juveniles through, correct? As decoys it makes it much more difficult for us, or even impossible, right? For us to send a 17-year-old in to buy cigarettes
No, and we have run decoys 16, 17-year-olds, and that's primarily the age decoy that we use just as time goes on. Our cadets, we prefer to use employees and adults, so they're not signing waivers, they're actual employees when they're doing these operations. But it's not impossible, and we have had sales at many of these businesses, including repeat offenders between 16 and 19-year-olds.
Okay.
And there is an exemption for active duty military. They're legally allowed to buy tobacco from 18 and over with an active duty military ID.
Oh, that's news to me. I never knew that. And I don't smoke, so this is not an issue for me. I have never smoked cigarettes. Ron, what was your question?
I wanted to understand why you didn't like the law. What, so I'm trying to understand that part of it, so,
Wait.
because I didn't see a.
It's not this code that I don't.
Okay.
We have, possession of methamphetamine is now a ticket. And you get to walk away, and we've legalized all these things, but now we're saying, oh, I'm sorry, you're 20 years old. Yeah, you can't legally, you're not an adult enough to smoke cigarettes, and which I just, I think it's overreach. I get that tobacco is a gateway drug. You know, when you have kids who are smoking weed or using drugs, they started off smoking cigarettes, generally speaking. And so but once someone's an adult, I expect them to have the freedoms that other adults have. They can vote, but you can't buy smokes. It just doesn't equate to me, quite frankly, but that's totally outside of what we're talking about here.
Got it. Okay, what's the pleasure of the council on this one? We only have B, so A's
Yeah.
out.
I'll make a motion to introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 5.35 to Title 5 of the Clovis Municipal Code relating to tobacco retailers.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, and it is a 3-1 with one absent. Thank you very much, Corporal Bryan.
Only because I understand it now.
Okay, and next is item 14, and since the agenda was short, I appreciate Paul and Andy putting a workshop on, and this is a workshop on Planning 101, and so with regards to the city's annexation process and planning entitlement procedures. I think we have Renee and George on this, so go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We are happy to be here tonight to give you a Planning 101 overview. George has put together, I think, a very informative presentation. We're trying to go over really the mission of the planning division, the entitlements they process, the procedures we go through. We're going to tie in some of the projects that have come before you that have been kicked back for appeals, what goes into that. You hear a lot about annexations, what that process is like, and then also our sphere of influence changes. So again, this is an interactive. Stop us if you've got questions. We'll do our best to answer all those questions, and hopefully at the end of this, you walk away with some good information about planning. So I'm going to turn it over to George, and he'll take it away.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I would like to start off first by highlighting our planning division staff. I think once council hears my presentation this evening, it's going to be very, very obvious that this is not a one-man job. I mean, it takes a team, and this is a group of dedicated individuals. They're smart, bright, and they love what they do, and they make a huge impact in our city. When I hear folks say, you know, the Clovis way of life, and I love Clovis and so forth, they get little recognition sometimes, right? And a lot of the things they do, the actions they take, they have a hand in some of the good things that are happening here. So I wanted to highlight them today. So for our planning division, I wanted to just mention that we do have strategic objectives, and those, I won't read word by word here, but start with staff proficiency, and that is just maintaining and expanding the planning division's role as a regional leader, right? We still set high standards for our division. We want to be a leader in our metropolitan area, where people look at us for innovation, improvements, and just new things, regarding planning, and I think we do that. Also, internal innovation. So that is continuous improvement. When we're able to, we'll send staff out for webinars, workshops, just more educational opportunities where they're able to stay on top of state legislation, laws, and just the new trends in the field. Also, customer service. Provide a responsive and timely service to our citizens, and also try to meet our performance timelines for entitlements. We have folks come in with planning entitlements, they pay their fee, they have an expectation, right? They want their entitlement to be processed, and we give them our commitment as well. You did your part, here's our part, we give you this timeline, it'll be before the planning commission or city council by a certain time frame. And also succession planning. So we develop a plan to provide more opportunities for our staff to be involved in more responsible roles and projects, more complex projects that will put them in that position ready to where they're able to move up within the department when the opportunity presents itself. Team orientation. So one key aspect for us is just strengthening our planning team and building trust. And that is through shared experiences. And each individual in planning, they bring their own expertise, their own experiences, and it's good to share among each other. And in fact, one fun project that we started it last year, we'll do it this year again. It's a Planner Fest, where we take a day where we take the entire planning staff and we take them to workshops. It's almost like a retreat where we just learn about planning topics and just get them to take a break from the day-to-day operations and just refresh, their planning skills and ready for the next big projects in town. Also, community education, so engaging the community with planning information. And we're doing that right now, actually, more with the general plan update. We've done community workshops, we've done farmers markets, we've done Trail Fest, and we continue to do more outreach. So planning staff, we're out there. We're meeting folks. We want to hear their opinions. What makes Clovis great? What do you want to see more of? What don't you like? What would you like to see different? So we take all comments. Also, the planning division, we have values. So we met this year, and our values are being prepared, being responsive, organized, joyful, right? We gotta love our job. It would just be miserable, right? Coming to work every day, and these individuals, you can tell they love what they do. Efficiency, customer service oriented, and teamwork. And these, by the way, are in no particular order. Okay. Here I did want to just highlight our newest planning staff member. And sorry, I can. It's not working here, but Tiffany Williams. She is our newest member in planning. She is our associate planner. So this evening I will primarily discuss 4 topics. I will give the council a brief update on our general plan progress. I'll discuss the planning entitlement procedures, the appeals process. What does that mean? How does that look like, and also the sphere of influence expansion and annexation process. And just on a personal note, I've been doing annexations here for over a decade now, and it's a touchy subject for some folks, right? And understandably, some folks just don't want growth, right? And so we learn to navigate through that, and what does that mean? So I hope this is going to be a good interaction here tonight. In terms of the general plan update, the general plan update is comprised into 3 phases. Phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 primarily looks at the visioning, the existing conditions, and issues identification. Phase 2 talks about land use alternatives and the preferred land use map. And then phase 3 looks at the general plan policy document, our environmental impact report, and the adoption. Right now, we are actually in phase 1 still, okay? And we actually did some, the staff and the consultant have conducted community outreach through pop-up events, like I mentioned, workshops, and focus groups to gather input on issues and opportunities. We are also looking at the existing conditions report right now, which is a baseline assessment of the city's land use, transportation, infrastructure, housing, environmental, and much more. And also the existing conditions report is being reviewed right now by the city's technical advisory committee, which is comprised of staff from various departments to ensure it accurately reflects current conditions. As we move into transition into phase 2, staff has opened the opportunity for property owners and developers to submit land use change forms to us. So that's currently in process, and the window's still open for folks to submit those requests. And it's important to note that the council will receive quarterly updates on the general plan update, and the next one will be in October. So we'll be back before council giving you an update. So as mentioned, here this picture is from one of our community workshops. Back in May, we conducted 2 between staff and the consultant. The first one was on May 8th, and the second was on May 28th here at the Transit Center, where we had a good turnout. We broke folks into different groups, and we received a lot of valuable information and input from them. And you can see our staff along the back there in the red shirts. That's all of us there.
George, I'm going to interrupt. So I think council, you all received a red T-shirt, right? Good. All right.
And here's just to provide you with a quick timeline, just some of the major components of the general plan update. It started in September of last year, where the general plan update was actually initiated. In January of this year, council identified a preferred boundary. If you recall, staff brought you 2 different possible maps with very different planning area boundaries, and the council selected one. In May, as I indicated, we did community workshops to get more input from the community. In July, which is last month, council appointed members to the General Plan Advisory Committee. And next month, the GPAC will be conducting its first meeting on September 11th here at the Transit Center, starting at 6 p.m. And the meeting can range anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So, yeah, looking forward to that. And again, back in October, we'll provide council with an update. And here's a quote that I wanted to share with you. Plans are of little importance, but planning is essential. That kind of justifies our jobs a little bit. We want to promote that planning. We need it.
And all those meetings with the GPAC is public, meaning the public can come in and participate?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
just want to remind the public of that.
yeah, they
Even if
can.
you're not on the GPAC, you can come to those meetings.
Mhm. Okay, now here, I wanted to get into a little bit about the planning and entitlement procedures. As I think Renee mentioned, I'm going to be touching this at pretty high level. Planning, we process a significant amount of entitlements, ranging from ministerial applications where Renee has the last authority to approve or deny, and then to and actual entitlements that discretionary entitlements that go before the planning commission and council. Okay, so typically when a applicant will submit an application to staff, we'll review it for completeness. Right? We have a checklist of the items that we need with every application. We check that, and then we issue what's called a letter of completion if we have everything, or a letter of incomplete if there's still items missing. And that gives folks the ability to take a look at that letter, and we work with them to comply with all the requirements.
And George, even before the application and before they even get into any of the work, they are meeting with you to see sort of what the flavor of the city and or neighborhood is on that piece of property for whatever application they want, right? Their vision, to see if it jives with our vision. Because a lot is happening before they're applying, because they kind of want to get your feel on it. Is that pretty accurate?
That is accurate.
Yeah.
And right, that's not here. We meet very regularly with applicants. Sometimes we even offer them the DRC, the Development Review Committee process as well. In addition, she's meeting with staff, right?
Yeah.
And we'll bring in other departments, public utilities, economic development, engineering, right, to those meetings as well, even before they submit to us.
And all those are courtesy to the applicant, is that correct? Or are we charging right when they meet with you at the window?
No, they're not. We're not
Yeah.
charging them. That's
Okay.
That's courtesy.
That's part of that public service that we have, where we just want to, okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mayor, if I may, absolutely correct. The Development Review Committee, that is a free charge, how's that? That's a free service that we don't charge, and many applicants utilize it. We think it's very important because it's an opportunity to hear from the department's comments on the projects, what they may be up against. But even before then, city staff, all departments are very accommodating with many different types of developers, where they'll want to come in and just float an idea and tell us what might be an obstacle ahead of us, or what is the entitlement process, what kind of land use change is before me. And so we are very accommodating to meet with them as many times really as needed, to try to get them to a point where they can then submit, or they have enough information to decide how to proceed. So I feel like the city as a whole is very accommodating.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And after that, we'll go ahead and distribute the application for comments. And we distribute that to the various city departments and outside agencies. And some of the outside agencies include the Fresno Irrigation District, the Fresno Metropolitan Flood Control District, Caltrans, Clovis Unified, and so forth. One key thing I wanted to add here is, if the planning entitlement is a annexation or a sphere of influence expansion, we also distribute this to the county and to LAFCO. That's important to mention that. LAFCO is the Fresno Local Agency Formation Commission.
Do we have timelines on when someone gives something back to us? At least internally, if we can control that, but can we make timelines for, like, hey, irrigation district, can we get it back in 7 days, 14 days? Or is it just up to them, and sometimes it can be longer than what the applicant expects?
We do give them 3 weeks. We give everyone 3 weeks
Okay.
to provide comments. Now, does everyone comply with that? Not all the time. And sometimes some of the outside agencies will take longer than that. We try to wait as long as we can, but if you recall, we have a commitment that we give to applicants too, that we have timelines that we have to, maintain. So we try to wait as long as we can, and then we will proceed with a public hearing, and we'll usually add a condition that they need to comply with, if it's FID, Fresno Irrigation District, or any other agency, for them to contact that agency directly. That's a typical process we do. And then during that comment period, planning staff will conduct environmental analysis, just in time or prior to scheduling the public hearing and publishing the legal notice. Because the legal notice to the paper, it has to have the type of environmental that we conducted. So that's a critical point there. And after the public hearing is done, the post-public hearing, then staff will finalize the resolutions and filed a notice of determination with the county clerk's office pertaining to the environmental analysis. Okay. Any questions on this? No? Okay. I promise I was told not to make it confusing, so I'm trying not to. Here I wanted to show council just the entitlements, the planning entitlements that are considered by the Planning Commission and the planning entitlements considered by council. So you have the list here. If you noticed on both lists, the first three are highlighted in bold, okay? Or they're bolded. So those are typically those are entitlements that are only reviewed by that decision-making body. So what I mean by that is through our municipal code, the Planning Commission is the final decision-making authority for conditional use permits, variances, and tentative tract maps. And here's the key, that are compliant with our development standards, okay? They stop there. Unless somebody else appeals that decision to council, it stays there, it's final. Likewise with council, the three entitlements that the commission does not see, that's only acted by council, are sphere of influence expansions, reorganizations, annexations, and agricultural preserve cancellations. Okay, and you can see down the line there for council, general plan amendments, rezones, and for folks that don't know, the difference between a rezone and a pre-zone is a rezone is when you're changing the zoning on a property within the city limits, and the pre-zone is when you're changing the zoning on a county parcel that is not within our city limits, if that makes sense. Okay, and also I wanted to point out too, under reorganization, sometimes reorganizations is also referred as annexation. So why both names? Well, sometimes with annexations, there are other agencies that are servicing that parcel. Fresno County Fire, the Kings River Conservation District, maybe. So when we're annexing a property, we're saying to those agencies, thank you for your time. We're going to take it over from here. Clovis Fire is going to take care of it, right? We're going to provide water. That's a reorganization, okay? And so I hope that helps. Okay, any questions on this? No? Now I wanted to talk a little bit about appeals. So our development code talks about that any decision rendered by the commission may be appealed to the city council. So if someone from the audience is at a planning commission hearing, they do not agree with the approval of a certain item, they can submit an appeal to staff, which then we will bring it to the council for consideration. And I didn't mention it here, but our code also talks about decisions that Renee makes. Someone can appeal her decisions to the planning commission as well, okay? In the same code, the council may appeal any decision rendered by the director or the commission, Okay? So meaning that the council has the authority to call up an item. It's also referred to in our Muni Code as call for review. Okay?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I've sat through a couple of appeals. Some of them were from the applicant, some of them were for neighbors. What do we charge for the appeals if you're appealing something from the PC?
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was going to talk about that too. So what we charge is for an appeal to the council is just over $1,800, and it's critical for us to receive those funds because it does cover staff's time, you know, to prepare the staff report, to redistribute the item for distribution comments again, right? If something happened that needed to, noticing requirements, and that fee will cover those costs. And I couldn't tell you how many hours we spent on those, but it's significant, right? And so it does help.
As I recall, do we expect if a citizen group, I think it was a long-term care facility.
Yes.
And my memory is correct, didn't the council waive their appeal fee?
Yes, I believe they did.
Okay,
I believe this is
probably
for.
much to the chagrin of your staff, but what are they expected to pony up to $1,800 also? Or is there a different quotient for the appeal by the non-applicant?
They would be responsible to pay the $1,800.
Okay, unless council takes other action.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And appeals shall be in writing and state the specific reasons for the basis of the appeal. Appeal applications shall include the required fee. That's part of the Muni Code, right? You need to pay that. Now, if council chooses to, which I hope council may reconsider that, you know, it is within your purview to choose to do that, right?
Hey, Scott, on the second one, can one council member bring up an appeal? Or does it still have to be sort of three of us before an appeal? Because it says council may appeal any decision. Do you know, sort of?
It's a good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the call-up process is, but I know there is a process for it. But is it just one council member? Do you know, George?
From my recollection from the last one that we just did, which I think it was Valley Crescent, which it was one council member requested it, and then the council needed to approve it, basically agree to it.
I just wanted to see if since this is a code way back when, I think that 3 was just pretty recent, where anything getting on the agenda require 3 of us. But I wanted to see because these are, many times those came already, the public asked us if we wanted to agree to the appeal. But what if one of us said, hey, that decision on the CUP was terrible. I want the council to hear it, meaning it's coming from us. Do we still need 3 is my question.
That's what I'm not sure about. As I sit here tonight, I can look that up and confirm what that process is. If it's just a single council member making that request. I think 2 issues potentially at play. Number 1 is the appeal. And number 2 is if it's a council call-up, presumably there's no fee for that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a finding in the code, if I recall, that there's got to be some public interest involved or an item, there might be a second kind of process that's involved. It's an item of important
Safety.
Concern in the community or something like that.
Safety.
So, I mean, the idea is, and I think we've shared with council before, is although we're sympathetic to groups in the community that may want to band together and request that council waive the fee, the reality is there is a cost to the city in processing appeals. And so we want to try to recover that cost if we can. But obviously there's some instances where it would justify not charging a fee to a specific group, or if the council themselves wants to pull an item up that you think is of importance that needs to be dealt with. But I can double check on that, exactly what the process is. I think you're right. There are instances where a council member may bring it up during council comments. Hey, is there a consensus to hear this appeal, then we're going to want 3 at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll want to make sure we follow the process, and I can get back to the council on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Karen.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
So section E in that code 9.9 does say any member of the council may call for a council review of a director or commission decision concerning planning, zoning, or development matters that routinely come before the director or commission in compliance with the land use table. A call for the review shall be filed by a member of the council with the city clerk. No reasons need to be stated for the requested review, and no fee shall be required. So it is one individual, but I do think it is good practice for the council to act as one, as we have recently.
Good to know. Yeah. Thank you, thank you.
And sorry about that. I don't know what happened here with the slide here. So continuing on the appeal process. If council decides to call the item up, or a member of the public appeals a decision to council, then per our code, the council obtains full jurisdiction on the matter. And any decision that the commission made is suspended until council acts on that item. Okay. Additionally, the appeal is treated as a new hearing. So here comes the cost again. So preparing a staff report, staff time, noticing, even if we may have to notice the neighbors, maybe, right? Perhaps that the cost will cover some of that. It may require additional resources and analysis before it comes to council. Again, the established fee helps cover the cost associated with that. One thing that I wanted to mention regarding this process too, that once the item gets brought before council, if the code also says that if council receives new information, that maybe perhaps, and these are my words, perhaps maybe the commission didn't consider that new information or didn't see it, but the council did, the council has the option to send the item back to commission for consideration based on that new information. I haven't seen that in a long time, I think. I don't remember that happening, but maybe it has. I don't know if Andy, if you recall ever that happening, council sending an item back with new information?
Not to the commission, but often I've seen items kind of be continued and ask the applicant and or other parties to work through an issue that came to light during a hearing.
Oh, all right. Any questions on? No?
George, so before George moves on to sphere of influences and annexations, there's a long list of entitlements. So George hit the main ones for Planning Commission and City Council, but there's quite a few that are handled at the department level, like administrative use permits, where they're reviewed. We do a public hearing in the council at staff level, make a decision, based on comments received from the departments, and then move forward. So I just wanted to leave you with, there's quite a long list. There's a fee schedule associated with these entitlements that we update annually. You see that come back to you, in the spring, and then it goes into effect typically early summer, and that's to reflect the cost of the staff working on those entitlements. So I think we're pretty defensible in our fees, for the amount of time that staff spends, but I did want to relay that we do have a posted fee schedule, and it is updated annually.
And just to clarify, Renee, all those fees are based in time and motion studies and analysis of what it actually costs us.
Okay, now I'm gonna just take some time now to talk about sphere of influence expansions and annexations. And per the Fresno Local Agency Formation Commission, per their handbook, The definition of a sphere of influence is a probable physical boundaries and service areas of the local agency. So in other words, it's almost like us planting the flag, right? That we're telling folks, other agencies, that we're looking to grow eventually into these areas, into this new area, as the city continues to grow in that direction. So, and that gets memorialized generally through our general plan. And also, if we're not in the general plan update period, then through an amendment to our sphere of influence applications. I think council, the last sphere of influence expansion that the council saw was with Shepherd North at Shepherd and Sunnyside, where they expanded the SOI there. Okay, and then also I'll talk briefly about just annexations, which is we want the orderly and planned community growth for our city.
Hey, George, what is the difference between a sphere and then a planning area?
Okay.
Right? Because sometimes our general plan has a planning area, yet it's not even our sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you explain that?
Yeah, so if folks have time and they want to read our general plan, it's awesome, okay? It's an awesome document. So, when you look at our population now, we're hitting almost 130, but if you actually look at our general plan, this is exciting stuff right here. So if you look at the overall planning area, our population is projected to be over 300,000 people. Just imagine that for Clovis, right? I mean, if people can barely imagine our population now, imagine that, almost 3 times the amount. So that's the planning area, the ultimate build out of the city, right? Which I think per that plan, it has our planning area going out to, I believe, Academy, to the east, north. I mean, it's pretty, I can't recall the boundaries up to the north.
Does it have any legal claim?
Well, that's a good question. I'll ask Scott to help me with that. If that
versus,
has
I know the sphere, you plant the flag, but if our planning area, can Selma just go, or Sanger just go, nope, we're coming. We're taking Academy. We're just going to do it. So does that?
I think generally speaking, our planning areas, we also define those in our MOU with the county as well. So there's at least, it's not to the point of the LAFCO discussion, but at least we've had some discussions with the county and identified that as a future planning area, an area kind of a pre-sphere, I guess you would call it. So you have a planning area, you're probably decades out at that point.
Yeah, well.
And then you have a sphere, which maybe you're looking at potentially expanding into the sphere and annexing property from the sphere within the next 10 to 20 years, let's say. And then obviously annexations are immediate. Those are current expansions of the city's limits at that point. So yeah, that's the way I would look at it. It's not, the planning areas are in the general plan. We have, I think, a couple of them in the current one. And there's at least some discussions with the county at that early stage as well, on the MOU as well.
Well, I say that only because I worry about Willow, that Fresno comes over, because I think it stops at Copper for us. And so
it does.
Yeah, and so how do we plan for that so we don't get Pac-Man in from Fresno? And how do we plan that? Because I think that is going to be such valuable land in the future, 100 years from now, where you got foothill communities, stuff like that. And so I just think we need to think further before they, come over.
Yeah, and go ahead, sorry. Oh, if council recalls, in January of this year, council acted on one of those preferred maps where council approved the expansion of that planning area. So it went further north than Copper, and I believe it took some of the landfill area, there too. So it went further north.
Okay.
And if council recalls on my slide when I was talking about the planning entitlement procedures, and I said if if a project involves a annexation or sphere of influence expansion, we need to notify the Fresno Local Agency Formation Commission and the County of Fresno. And this is why, because the Fresno Local Agency Formation Commission, which is LAFCO for short, they're the authority to approve annexations, right? Every county has one, a LAFCO, right? We try to meet early with both agencies to ensure, for example, with LAFCO, that we're complying with the Cortesy-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act of 2000, and also the principles, the requirements and procedures for LAFCO in terms of considering annexations. And also with the county, we make sure to ensure that we are in compliance with the memorandum of understanding between the county and the city, which, by the way, it's due to expire here, I believe, in 2027, and with a one option to extend about 5 years or so. I was going to mention something else about LAFCO, and maybe Renee can.
I was going to add that a few years back, we started holding monthly meetings with LAFCO representatives and county representatives to talk about ongoing projects. So we kept that open communication and dialogue with both of these agencies to make sure there were no surprises. So even projects that we're hearing about, they may be coming into the city, we wanted to get some feedback. So those meetings have served us well. It's an opportunity for us to check in with both of these agencies, and for them to also share with us what they're hearing. So just know we're holding those monthly meetings with both of them.
Yeah. So I remembered what I was going to mention. So LAFCO, similar to us, where we have planning staff and then we have the commission, and I keep going like that because Amy's back there. So LAFCO has staff, and they have a LAFCO commission, right? So they make a recommendation to the commission to either approve or deny an annexation, a sphere of influence expansion area. And why it's critical to meet with them early too is with a sphere of influence expansion, it requires LAFCO to do what's called a municipal service review. So it's a pretty lengthy, thick document that addresses services. Can the city service that area? You know, infrastructure, police, water. Financially, can the city, sustain this additional properties, right? All that is discussed in the what's called MSR for short, right? And so these meetings are critical. And here's just the general process. So we meet with either the property owner that wants to get annexed or a developer that wants to bring in property, and we discuss the proposal, and we look at what are the potential challenges. Infrastructure, right? Sewer, water, can PD and fire service them? Can public utilities, also service them? So all those are discussions that we have early on. Sometimes, moving on to the next one, the staff may reach out to adjacent property owners to just inquire if they're interested in annexing. Because we've learned often that when we meet with LAFCO and the county, sometimes it's asked, hey, did you reach out to the adjacent property owners to see if they're interested in annexing? It may make a more logical boundary if you bring in these properties and so forth. So sometimes we'll reach out through a notice to them, and if needed, we can have a meeting with the neighbors, and we can invite the county and LAFCO to come and have a conversation with them. And of course, the next one is continue meeting with both the Local Agency Formation Commission and the county to discuss the annexation and ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the memorandum of understanding. And by that time, we're ready to bring the item before council. So if you remember, per our entitlement page, the commission doesn't see annexations or sphere of influence expansions. So they come straight to council for your consideration. And if council decides to approve them, that evening, council will approve a resolution for LAFCO to take proceedings for the annexation. So you're basically giving LAFCO the thumbs up to go ahead and process the application before their commission for consideration. Between the council consideration and the LAFCO commission hearing, that could be like a 4-month process, anywhere from 3 to 4 months. Because once council approves the annexation, we still have to compile the application. LAFCO has an application and submitted requirements just like we do, right? So we sort of become the applicant. We have to fill out the application, get all the items in the checklist, and submit it to LAFCO. They have noticing requirements. They have to notice specific agencies. So they can't get us before the commission right away. It usually would take maybe 3 months after council considers the item. And assuming that the LAFCO commission approves the item, right after that, there's a 30-day reconsideration period where folks can protest that approval. And during that 30-day, we work with LAFCO to submit any last-minute documentation. So when the 30-day gets completed, and assuming that there's no opposition, they can record the annexation. And once they record it with the county recorder, LAFCO will issue staff what's called a certificate of completion. And that's when staff will send a citywide email to all city departments, notifying them of the annexation and requesting that they take immediate action to ensure that services are provided to this new area in the city limits. Any questions here? Okay, I'm almost done. Just the next slides, it's about less than 2 minutes. I wanted to show you, it's a visual screenshot of all the annexations that we've done in the city since the incorporation of Clovis in 1912. Now, one thing that I want you to pay close attention is that between 1912 and the first annexation after that, it took 40 years, and you'll see that. You'll see, the year is going to be on the top right. So 1912 and then 1952, right? That was the next one. And then you'll see what happens after.
Is there theme music?
I know.
And notice how, of course, we started in the core, and then we start annexing more and more in our southwest area, which is our Helm Ranch area. And you see it there, right? We're annexing more and more. And then you'll notice that pretty soon here, we're going to start annexing to the north and a little bit to the east. And by the 1990s, most of Herndon is in the city limits. And we're hitting knees by that time too. And take a look at 2006. That was a big boom for our town. And you'll notice the annexation that occurred that year. 2006. And now we're going into our Loma Vista area. And that's it. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Good. That was a very informative presentation, George. I appreciate it. Is there a situation where we could be compelled to take in an area that the county services? I'm thinking specifically of Tarpey Village. There was a point in time where there were discussions about they wanted to come over, some didn't. Has there ever been any history of, hey, guess what, this is yours now? Did that ever happen?
Not from my knowledge. I know that there's been just discussions about, just, hey, it would be great if Clovis can take Tarpey, right? But other than that, nothing official. I don't know if Andy has more information on that, but not from my experience.
Because I know that LAFCO, they won't let an island, they don't do the island thing anymore, where you have an island in the middle of a city, like in city Fresno, there's quite a few county islands. But LAFCO basically has said, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. Is that your understanding?
They still, they prefer not to have those.
Right.
And why I say that they prefer is because I think we've been doing a great job not having those, in the middle of our city.
But Dry Creek Preserve.
Yes, with the approval of Shepherd North, we created our first island, right? Right there. And then we created another island, okay? If you notice it right there, you see that last annexation there in red? There's a little island there, north of Shepherd, south of Beheimer, between Peach and Minnewawa. Now, why did LAFCO okay that in the county? Well, that's because we gave them an annexation plan. So that second island, by this time next year, or at least at the latest, at the end of 26, it'll be here. It'll be in the city. That's that second island up there. Now, with Dry Creek, we do have a master plan for Dry Creek, which in there it talks about eventually we should make it our priority, our goal, right? That with projects that come in into that Dry Creek area, start annexing property in. And the ultimate goal is eventually it should be in our city limits.
And I understand, especially for the people in the Dry Creek Preserve, they have a agricultural or ranching or horses, and they don't want to be city folk. And
yes.
I respect that. But state laws now, where you once, if I understand it correctly, if a sewer line is available, if you have a septic tank, you have to hook up to it. Now, isn't that the state law now?
I would have to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's within so many years that
Right.
they have to hook up, unless, per the municipal.
And I know we're outside of our conversation tonight, but those are some of the things that are going to be challenges for Dry Creek Preserve.
Now, are you referring to like if the property's still in the county or if it gets annexed?
Yeah, there was a point where when we put in, I can't remember, it was a Woodside development up off of Teague and Sunnyside area, and we were bringing our sewer line up, and people were given the opportunity to tie in at their expense. But there was also a conversation that if it goes up the street, they have to. And we were like, well, we don't want to be part of that, if I remember correctly, but it's a conversation for another time. But the Dry Creek Preserve will be a challenge for us with sewer and water and good folks who don't want to be city folk.
Right.
If I may just add to that, I think that's a good comment. Two things related to Councilmember Bessinger's comment about areas or parcels wanting to connect to city services. If you're not in the city, we typically do not allow that connection unless it's a life and safety issue, and there's a process we need to go through. If you're in the city, per the code, I think there are some timelines to connect
Right.
for those properties. That's first. Second, to George's comment about a few of the islands that you can see on the map there, like north of Shepherd and the Dry Creek Preserve. Dry Creek Preserve has a master plan. There is a plan for annexation, but in both cases, annexation happens at the request of development. So while we at city staff believe that like north of Shepherd, that area will come in the next year, year and a half, we're really at the timeline of the developer as they come in. So I know I've said before, oh, this is gonna happen by this date, and then it doesn't happen, and then I'm made a liar, so I'm like, it's based on development coming forward. So as soon as they come forward, we process.
And if I could add on infrastructure, the state law does state that cities that have unincorporated communities near them that don't have adequate infrastructure need to consider either annexing or providing services. Usually that involves the annexation. We don't have any of those areas adjacent to us at this time. Tarpey's served by us by water already, so I think they're in good shape. But some other communities in the valley, they're adjacent to an area that does not have adequate water supplies or what have you, and you start seeing those issues pop up around the valley in other areas.
Any other questions? Well, we're going to go ahead and open to the public. If you have any questions, I know there was a lot of information, but this was also educational for the council, but for the public as well. Many of the items that we hear are land use items, and so those are probably the most emotional also of the items here. Go ahead, Mr. Trevino.
Yeah, my name is Steve Trevino. I live on Bullard. I just wanted to add something to what the city manager said. That's what happened to us in the Stafford Edition. We all had water wells, and we all had water wells, and you'll notice that ponding basin that's on Bullard, there was a big ranch there. And those people that owned that ranch started pumping all the water and practically stealing our water. And everybody, all of us in that neighborhood, we didn't have any water. So in 1960, that's when the city of Clovis took over the Stafford Edition. That's why they call it Stafford Edition, because we became part of Clovis. But what I wanted to ask, you were talking about, I already forgot already, the fees, you were talking about some kind of fees that cost $1,500. What was that fee again?
The appeal fee?
The appeal fee, yeah. Now, is that a Clovis thing, or is that something that, is that the amount of money that just about every city charges?
No, that's just Clovis.
That's just Clovis. And how does that compare with other cities?
I don't know. That's a good question. We based our fees on, let me step back a little bit. We do a comprehensive analysis of our fees, and we do compare it to other cities. So there's like 9 cities we compare it to.
Yeah.
The last time we did that was about 4 years ago. And that's how we arrived to about 1,500 or 1,800 that's now. But I could not tell you, sorry, I couldn't tell you how much Fresno is charging, for that appeal fee right now.
Okay, because that seems like a lot of money. Because someone like me, I'm on Social Security, I couldn't afford something like that. Another thing I wanted to say, you were talking about in the future, City of Clovis would move all the way to Academy and going north, probably to Bryant maybe. And I just wanted to say something. I'm here because my father was a farm worker. That's why a lot of us came to Clovis. We're farm workers. We worked all these ranches around Clovis. They're all gone because of all these developments that come to, that you were talking about the year 2000 as to now. The city of Clovis is no longer the city it used to be because of Hardin Ranch and and Alta Sierra Ranch and all these gated communities. Maybe I know a lot of people here in Clovis like that, but a lot of people like me and a lot of my schoolmates, they've all moved out of Clovis, moved to Idaho, Texas, and other places, because a lot of this growth has ruined Clovis. You know, a lot of people that I went to school with were cowboys and cowgirls that rode horses. I remember just about 10 years ago, I was digging on my street and I found an old horseshoe in the dirt. That's just a reminder of what this city used to be. And it's really a shame, really is. I know a lot of you are proud that we have all these neighborhoods coming up, but to me, it's pretty sad, really is. You showed a picture of a sidewalk, beautiful sidewalk. If you take a walk down Bullard, over there by Temperance, where a young man died in a car accident, you'll notice the sidewalk isn't finished. It's not complete. There's dirt. And that's not the only place in Clovis. There's a lot of incomplete sidewalks in this town. And I don't know, I don't know, you're talking about the planning. I don't know if you guys, is that just a part of the planning department or part of negligence, a part of the people that run the city? But I'm very disappointed. I really am. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. Anyone else like to comment on this item?
John Adams from Southeast Clovis. Andy knows me. I've retired, but I was with Fresno County Planning. So I just wanted to put some things out there, and I'll put them online with the general plan. But I would like to challenge you to go on Google Earth and look at Clovis. Okay, look at your jurisdiction and compare that to Fort Collins, Colorado. I have family that lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. When we first visited our daughter, I was looking out her kitchen window. I could see all these people going by. And I'm going, what's happening here? Well, they have trails all the way through, and it's a fairly new subdivision. They have trails all the way through their subdivisions. You can walk on, and they're developed trails. Now, I know Clovis has trails. My wife and I walk the Clovis Trail from Shaw down to past Dakota pretty much every morning. But anyway, and I know that Clovis has other parts of the trail, but it's not the same as being able to walk out your back door and have access to a trail. And that has to do with how you plan your developments. And that's not just on the city of Clovis. The city of Fresno is terrible at this too. And part of it is current planning traditions. They want to compact development, where in other jurisdictions, other places, there's a lot of green space. These trails aren't just a little trail that was plugged in there. There's a lot of green space alongside the trails. So that's just something for you to think about when you're reviewing general plan amendments, or when a developer comes in and wants to annex an area and develop it, that you think of these things to make things nicer, more green and more accessible for people to walk around. That's one of the things, planning concepts that's kind of come up, but they've tried to plug it into city-wise type things, which I would promote to you to think about this on your future developments. I had some other things, but that's okay. Just wanted to I just give you an example. You were talking about annexations. My family moved to Clovis in 1981. At that time, Clovis was around 30,000 people. And now you said Clovis is approaching 130,000. So it's quite a bit of a growth. And I want to commend you for your planning on trying to keep the Clovis way of life, if you will, and separating areas and certain types of sections, so that you'll be commended for that. But I would like you to think on the ground level on what I've talked about on making green space and trails plugged into those new developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Anyone else? And Mr. Trevino, Mr. Adams, I think if you can come to those general plan updates, I think your inputs will be valuable to sort of the planning committee.
Hi, my name is Kay Roddenberry. I live 56 West El Paso in Clovis. I have been out to the new subdivisions out at Sunnyside and Shepherd. Beautiful homes. They're doing a great job. And I've been into some of the areas that have already been people living there. Beautiful. You can be very proud of that. One thing is a disappointment to me is the backyards. There's no backyards. And I think that's rather important when parents are both working. Parents don't have time to take their kids down to the park. We have a pocket park in our neighborhood. I know that there's no backyard, but there's this pocket park that they have some put in. And the one in our neighborhood, I drive by there every day, at least once. No one ever uses it. And for 20 years, the city of Clovis has paid to maintain that park. You can say it's a green space, but it's not used. What better thing to do is take that space and put it into at least some of the homes with backyards. That's the Clovis way of life. A safe place for children to play. Down this street in the pocket park is not, unless there's a parent watching them. But backyard barbecues, birthday parties, getting together, that's the Clovis way of life. And the pocket parks don't get it. I've never seen anybody having a party in that pocket park. So you might think about when you're doing new subdivisions, think about that. I know you're up against the state because they want to stack and pack, don't they? But you might as well build an apartment building if you build a 2-story house with a 10-foot backyard. So anyway, other than that, you're doing a great job. People want to live in Clovis. I'm sorry it's growing, but we love it. We love the trails. We love the big parks.
Yeah.
But the tiny pocket parks are kind of a waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Mayor, if I may
Yes.
add a comment to the big parks comment. So one thing that I noticed personally at the workshops, the general plan workshops, and I believe we received a comment during farmers market. I wasn't there, but I believe I heard that, and that is folks are looking for bigger, active parks. Almost like I don't know. Is it a move away from neighborhood pocket parks and more towards a larger active? It's interesting, but I'm noticing those comments.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Tara Wink. I live over in the Clovis High area. Something I wanted to touch upon was kind of piggybacking on Steve Trevino's comment about maybe like a shifting identity in Clovis. 4 years ago when we did the city council run and there was like a bunch of people versus like the 2 people that just ran to this last election, I heard a lot of people say something about small town values, and I know that's built in a lot of the Clovis way of life and stuff, and that's gonna look different to everybody. But hearing that we're moving towards 300,000 people, I really think that we need to solidify a little bit more what that means rather than just leaving it be really subjective. Maybe it is making the bigger park so we can do more of the like community events like the movies, or I don't know what that would be because I'm only one person in the community. But speaking to the annexations, I really think we need to be more responsible when it comes to these annexations because, like Steve said, I've noticed a lot of places where there's just a lack of sidewalks to get to and from places. We shouldn't be car dependent on things. That's really not a part of the small town feel. Small town is being able to walk from one place to another, from Clovis High, just getting to like the Walmart neighborhood market or whatever. It's about 2 miles. It's walkable for me, but outside of that, like you can't really go anywhere within like 5 miles, you know? And so the sidewalks, integral. Over there in the Loma Vista area, I don't know if any of you guys drive down there regularly. A lot of traffic. I don't know why it's taking a while to get the lights up, the city lights or the street lights. And then there's a lot of traffic going down Bullard. You guys aren't really relaying that message to the people that live there. And so there's a lot of like shifting traffic. What's the word? There's just a lot of shift in traffic, the way that traffic shifts. And there was no way of addressing that to the public. And so it's really interesting watching people go from these 2 lanes that went straight, and it took a while for there to be those right must go right, you know? So you had a lot of these people going straight where there was only 1 lane.
Yeah.
And so just when we're expanding, please do it a little bit more responsibly. That's all I wanted to speak to.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara, for coming out. Anyone else?
Jenny Kren, and I do live on Bullard, which people talk about, you know. And we do have a problem because there's that, we were annexed, and it was, so Leo Wilson, I think, could build a housing development, and we just, in order to make the space nice shaped, we got annexed. And so we're in one of those places where there's no sidewalks. And it is because it's the homeowners, it's the property owner's responsibility. And there's no way that we're gonna widen Bullard in front of our house and build sidewalks, you know, and I think a lot of people don't understand. I mean, we had to agree to be annexed, but boy, Wilson put a lot of pressure on people. He wanted to build that development there. And so I don't know, you know, how you do it. It's a problem. Our streets, the street is, you know, there's development up until, well, we're the 2nd house in the country, I tell people. But you'd be surprised how fast people can go from, you know, 45 to 55, 60 miles an hour in front of the 2nd house in, you know, the narrower street. So that is a problem, especially when people, you know, all 5 houses would have to sell to make it worth it for a property developer to come in. And they're not willing to pay enough to make it reasonable for all 5 of us to sell. So anyway, and we're not, and the 5 of us are certainly not going to widen the street. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close the public portion. I think that all those ideas are excellent. I think those are things in which our planning staff are going to take into consideration as we go into this planning phase with the general plan update. So thank you so much for that. Any other comments or questions with regards to our planning 101? I think we wanted this because I think it was important for us to hear the different processes and to understand. And many of us are just lay persons elected into this position, and we may not understand some of the nuances and or applications that come forward and procedures. And I think this gives us a stronger foundation on how it got here, what's going on, how it got to a planning commission, and how it got appealed to us, and what are we looking for? So that's important. Any other comments? This is just a really just a workshop, so there's nothing to do on this. Okay, and whenever our agenda is light, we will try to fill it with other things in which the council is interested in discussing or learning more about. So Renee and George, thank you for the excellent presentation. And so if there are no further questions, we will close that item out. Now we'll move into city manager comments.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few events to highlight. Our Clovis Mobile Rec is moving around, and we have this week at Century Park, and then there's a Saturday event on 8:30, so we're using those big parks to do the Clovis Way of Life. It's been very popular. We're also offering a low-cost microchip and vaccine clinic for our favorite animals at home. We also have a fundraiser for our senior center that is this coming Saturday. Tickets are available. And then, this is exciting, the groundbreaking ceremony for the Fresno County Regional Clovis Branch Library has been announced. There's a ceremony planned for August 27th at 11 a.m. just north of the Clovis Senior Center. So that project is coming to fruition. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay. Now we'll move to council comments. Councilman Basco.
Just two things. One is September 2nd meeting, I will not be here. I didn't realize that was on a Tuesday after Labor Day, but I'll be out of town that day. And then one other thing came up. It was a question that had to do with districts and elections. Is there anything that says you have to live in a district for a certain amount of time before you can run for an election, or is it just day of filing wherever you live?
I believe it's the day the papers are pulled, I think is, looking at Brianna. Yeah, there's no, I'm not aware of any requirement that says you have to live there a certain period of time beforehand, no.
Okay, thanks. That's all I got.
All right. Councilman Bessinger.
I will not be here the September 13th meeting or 15th meeting. I will be out of state. I'm reporting out, I'm taking the lead on the heavy-duty vehicle mandate issues that we're dealing with. Staff and I had a Zoom meeting with people from the California Air Resources Board today. It was a fruitful meeting. I think we got a lot of information that, frankly, we hadn't been privy to before. And on Thursday, we're going up to Sacramento to the Capitol to meet with the director of CARB, and I'll report back after that as to what, how that went and what our next move might be.
Just for clarification, I already signed on to that as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You're coming?
No, not to that. I didn't know about it, but I signed on in support of not having those large vehicles on 99.
Oh.
So I did that back when that Patrick Sneed had originally met with us and stuff. So, and I was supposed to be at Congressman Vong's thing in Bakersfield today, but I couldn't make it today, so I didn't go. But
Yeah, we're working with the Congressman's office also.
Excellent. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Pierce.
I have nothing.
Okay. Oh, no. Okay. And then I just have a couple things to report out for the ribbon cutting for Juice It Up. They are the first one outside of campus, so they are here. And it is a owner from Irvine who wanted to invest here because their brother lives here. So excellent seeing them. And then August 14th was Terry Bradley's memorial at Holy Spirit Church. And so, as mentioned earlier, Dr. Bradley was instrumental in Clovis Unified when he was superintendent in leading our great school district. And so we, in his passing is just a loss for our community. For the Miss America, thank you for all those who came out to support. We had Supervisor Magsig, Office of Ed, Superintendent. We have Tangipa's office, Senator Grove's office, and Congressman Fong's office as well, all there. And then our city manager was there. We had the rodeo out there. And we also had the Memorial District. They were all there. And then some dance groups from the Hmong community came and danced. So Rachel will be competing on September 4th for Miss America representing us. And she's just a bright, fabulous young lady, and I think she's going to do really well. I think you can watch it. I forgot you can stream it. They stream it live, so if you want to follow it. And then, what is the other? I wanted to just report out, I sent a little certificate in honor of the life of Kenneth Xiong. He was the young private first class who came from training, finished training from the Army, and I guess they were both in the same camp together, went to see their friends, and then was murdered by those same guys he was with in training. And so, we went to just pay respects to him, and so his funeral was over the weekend. Other than that, I don't have any other, nothing else to report, and we will adjourn now at 7:50. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening.